And now a look at why the Delta variant of coronavirus is dominating in different parts of the world. Now, there was a 6-fold drop in the ability of antibodies from a past infection to neutralize the Delta variant and a greater 8-fold reduction in the potency of antibodies elicited by the vaccines, according to a peer-reviewed study led by researchers from India and the UK. The study combines findings from lab experiments and analysis of breakthrough cases to piece together signs of the Delta variant being better at replication and resisting antibodies. It also cites lab analysis that shows the Delta variant to be more efficient in entering human cells and replicating within. Well, to talk more about this study that is peer-reviewed, we're joined by one of the authors, Professor Ravi Gupta from the Cambridge Institute of Therapeutic, Immunology, Infectious Diseases. Thank you so much for joining us. And Professor Gupta, tell us about the findings in this study that's been published in Nature on the Delta variant.
Yes, we undertook a really detailed investigation of Delta in collaboration with our colleagues in India, spanning a number of institutions, including INSACOG. And the key there really was to understand the biological characteristics which can explain the global dominance of this variant. And we found, in short, that this virus has extremely high replication ability. In other words, it is able to reproduce itself very effectively in large numbers and large quantities. And this contributes to increased infectiousness. And the way that it does this, we found, is that when the virus makes the spike protein, which is sitting on the surface of the virus and is responsible for engaging and entering a target cell, that spike protein is in a processed form, in a very mature form, in a very infectious form. In other words, it's kind of prepared. It's much more ready to cause an infection than the typical SARS coronavirus spike protein. So it has evolved in a way to become more infectious, to be more able to enter cells. And we found that this was a very significant advantage over the Alpha variant, which emerged in the UK and spread to India and other countries. It was much, much more efficient than the Alpha variant. And in addition, when we tried to challenge the Delta virus with antibodies from people who had been vaccinated or infected before, those antibodies were not able to very effectively deal with the Delta variant. So there was some degree of immune evasion, we say. The immune system has been avoided to some extent by this Delta variant because we believe the Delta variant emerged in a patient who presumably had some kind of immunity but was unable to clear the virus, and the virus acquired more and more mutations to enable it to become fitter, in other words, replicate faster and avoid antibodies.
So that's very concerning that antibodies from a previous infection are less effective in preventing illness from the Delta strain. And what does this mean for India, given that we had such a severe second wave?
That's right. So what we believe in because of the Delta variant findings we have reported, is that this explains why so many people were reinfected probably in the earlier part of this year with the Delta variant, causing such severe disease and death in so many people. And of course, that evidence is there is evidence for that, because we then describe in the paper infections in healthcare workers who were all vaccinated, and they all were infected with the Delta variant despite being vaccinated with 2 doses. And that was a very worrying finding. Of course, none of them became very ill or died, but they could have all passed on this infection to somebody else. And that is telling us that this virus can infect people even after vaccination. You should still be vaccinated because it protects you against dying from this disease, which is critical, obviously. But it means that we have to think again about how we successfully control the transmission and spread of this disease.
And so what does this mean about, regarding our understanding of herd immunity, something we've heard since the start of this pandemic, that we have to achieve herd immunity, but clearly the virus keeps circulating among the population, even if vaccinated.
Yes, I mean, herd immunity, I don't think it has a really stiff, fixed definition. Ideally, it means that you're immune to infection and transmission. I mean, that's the purest way of saying this. You are immune to, you don't get infected and you don't pass it on. That's the solid definition. A more relaxed definition would say, okay, herd immunity means people are protected from severe disease and death. And that still allows for onward transmission, which means that you can be more relaxed about the definition. And that's what many countries are interpreting it as, because they say we can't continue functioning as a society or economy if we still count all these transmissions in mild infections as severe. So they're saying, so the definition is changing in a way, but I think everybody agrees that herd immunity is something that's much more difficult to achieve now, mainly because we don't vaccinate children and young adults, and they are 20%, 30% of the population. So we're never going to get to anywhere near herd immunity unless we start vaccinating younger people.
And now we have new variants emerging. It's not just Delta. We're hearing about the Mu variant and C.1.2, and WHO has also spoken about these new variants.
So these variants have a number of mutations that have been seen before. They have some new mutations. It's difficult to know what they're actually going to do because, I mean, Delta showed us that it's not all about immune escape. Delta has spread so quickly and unpredictably because of changes that we didn't understand. So I think it's very hard to predict what new variants are going to do until we see them in action. And from my point of view, nothing has come close to what Delta is doing. So I think that whatever we're seeing in other parts of the world, other variants, we should be focusing really on Delta right now because this is the one that is causing the biggest problems.
And that's what we're seeing, isn't it? It's because of the Delta variant we're seeing these, crises in Israel where they have such a good coverage of the vaccine, in the United States as well, though that's because of a lot of vaccine hesitancy there.
That's right. So we really, unfortunately, are in a situation where despite the vaccine, we still need to be very cautious of what's going on. We still need to exercise care. We should not really be doing large gatherings of thousands of people, ideally, even if it's outdoors, because there can be transmissions. It's a highly infectious virus. And so we're really in a difficult position right now. The best thing we can do is vaccinate as many people as possible, as quickly as possible, in order to get transmission under control.
All right. Thank you so much, Professor Gupta, for joining us on the program.